First, guys, thanks for coming. I know a lot of you. For those I don't know, appreciate you coming out today. Obviously, it's Halloween. A lot of us have circus midgets at home we got to get to at some point. It's funny because you hear Fred, and a lot of times powerlifters, we're meatheads by design. That's women and men. That's not just men. You hear Fred talk, and we forget how much science is in our sport. We want to pick up heavy weight and put it down, and we want to be dumb about it. And the truth is, to be at a high level, folks like Fred, folks like Jen, they're students of the sport. And my maturation in the sport came when I figured out that I had to quit just being a dumb lifter. And that's the truth. That also age comes into that too, because you start figuring out real quick, if I don't figure out some intelligent ways to get around injuries and around training, I'm going to be hurt. So when you hear Fred, a lot of times, the first time somebody comes into these and they hear Fred talk and these principles and functions and F-max and all this, and you're like, the hell with this. That's not what I came for. I want to know where to put my hands, right? That's where your brain goes. I warn you, if you're really going to mature as a lifter, start paying attention to those things. Start understanding these 7 laws. That's why I'm going to have that. I'm not using the projector today. I'm not smart enough. But these 7 laws are canon for us, and they are very important. And what Fred said them, I was going to say anyway. By the way, real fast, how many of you guys, obviously you all lift, you're here. How many of you guys hold yourselves out or want to hold yourselves out as a coach of an athlete in some way, where you want to coach other athletes? Okay, so this is important. It's really important stuff. And one of the first things I'm going to say is my demonstration is going to be far more hands-on to the bench press. And if you have squat questions, by the way, in the Q&A after, Fred, Jen, and I will all answer those questions as well. But mine's going to be far more Q&A based on basics of bench press, and then how to get the most out of your lifters, how to correct some things, the difference between flat back benching and arch benching. That's kind of where I'm going to go over my point here. An old crusty lifter taught me a long time ago that 1,000 Italian grandmothers make sauce 1,000 different ways, right?
That guy's back there, by the way.
Yeah, that old crusty guy's back there. And the point in that is that as we're going through this today, whether it's Jen talking about dead, me talking about bench, Fred talking about squat, or whoever, or you talking to your lifters, you have to remember there's no one way to do this. Nothing irks me worse in the sport today, in our world, strength sports in general, whether it's strongman, powerlifting, than somebody reads an article or sees Dan Green do something one way, or George Lehman's over, and all of a sudden you're supposed to deadlift over. George Lehman's going to deadlift 900 pounds over, under, because he's a hell of a deadlifter. So you have to remember, as holding yourself out as a coach, that there's a lot of different ways to do things. Is everybody okay with that? So as I'm going through this today, now that being said, all 1,000 Italian grandmothers use tomatoes to make sauce. You got to have some water. Most of them are going to use garlic, right? Most of them are going to use some pepper, right? Oregano. So there are some things that we as coaches or athletes who want to better ourselves can say, this is relatively standard. And as doing this, it's going to help. So the bench press is relatively, by the way, I love bench press. For those who don't know me well, I was a bench press specialist for years. My first meet back, I quit in 04, 05, I ripped a quad. My first meet back in 10, because my wife talked me to get back into the sport, I hit 567 without training for 10 years, or 6, 7 years hardcore. I've always been good at it, but again, my bench has accelerated my ability at it because I started figuring out how to get better and smarter at it. So a couple things we're going to start with is the setup of the bench. And obviously, everybody understands bench press, but Vince, go ahead and come down. I'm going to hit you with about 8 to 10 things that are tomato sauce in this presentation, that if your lifters ain't doing, it's probably wrong, okay? The first thing is, by the way, look at that first law of individual differences, right? Everybody who looks at that law, when people look for where their hands should go on this bar, that is rule number 1 all day long and twice on Sunday. Because where your hand's going to be comfortable is going to be different for every particular lifter. However, the basic concept I need, go ahead and take that bar off, Vince. I don't care what formula you use to take the bar off. I need this bar, and I need this wrist, and I need this elbow to stay in line throughout the bench press. Go down, come up. Go ahead and put the bar up. Rule number 1 for yourself or any other lifter. If I put the bar high in my hand, What's going to happen to the bar as I go backwards, especially as I go under more maximal weights? What's going to happen to the wrist? It's going to bend backwards. As my wrist bends backwards, where's it going to put it in conjunction to my wrist? Not in line. Any mechanics in the room? Anybody got car smarts? Do pistons ever come at angles like this? Pistons always go straight up and down. So the first thing I look at when I look at any bench presser, very first thing, I don't worry about the hand placement as much as I worry about when they come off the bar. Come off, Vince. No, come off. I'm gonna work Vince way more than Fred did today. Is that I look here, and as you guys can see, we have a relatively straight line. By the way, I'm not gonna complain if a lifter's fractionally off. Go ahead and take it off and go down. Throughout that range of motion, that elbow, that wrist, that bar have to stay in line. Take your hands real wide, Vince. Do it again. Vince is not good here. I know Vince well enough to know that. And I know that he's, even though he's trying to, right, the scientific principle that when you know that you're under experiment, you'll try to meet the goals of the experiment. But Vince, as he gets too wide, he's gonna end up here or here. The flare is gonna happen, this is gonna come out. So one of the first things I try to teach people is make sure that you or your lifter, and everything I tell you today is talking about you training somebody else, or obviously you can use the advice for yourself. So that's the first thing. Second thing, let's talk about hands. Go ahead and put your hand on the bar. I want you to turn your hand way back. Obviously he's not benching this way. I want you to squeeze the bar, Vince. Bill, what's his fingers look like right now?
White.
Why do we want white on the fingers? Anybody? How many of you guys have heard the term irritation? Right? The massage guy is going to know what irritation is. Here's your simple way to do it. I want everyone real fast to open up your hand. With an open hand, I want you to flex your bicep. Touch your bicep with the other hand. All right? Now I want you to, while you're doing this, I want you to squeeze that hand. What happens to your bicep as you squeeze the hand? Okay, very simple tomato sauce concept. When I tighten up muscles around the muscles I use, I can actually recruit more out of those muscles. So if I hold this bar loose, I'm not tightening up my forearm, I'm not tightening up my bicep, and therefore I will get less control, less power. Now, there's always an argument about false grip versus closed grip. You can false grip with an extremely tight hand. So I'm not opposed to a false grip if the person can maintain that. Actually, one of our lifters is going at Worlds tomorrow, who's a 485 pound, 220 pound, 45-year-old man who benches 485 raw with a false grip. I don't like it, personally. His tomato sauce tastes a little different than mine, but he manages to do it with so much pressure here. By the way, he's also over 20 years of bench pressing, has an actual callus ridge across here that he created. So he's able to get that false grip. For most of your young lifters, they cannot. So I'm not a big fan of a false grip in bench press if they cannot get that irritation, if they cannot get that tightness. So we've covered where the hand should be, right? In and out, comfort, and where it's gonna put them in a line. From a grip standpoint, they gotta be super tight, okay? Any questions so far on that? All right, next thing we're gonna talk about, one of the things people tend to care about the most is, where should I be? And Vince right now is obviously just laying on the bench, but a nice starting point is your eyes should be under that bench, right? So then as I come off, I'm nice and set in. So a good, simple way to teach your lifters to start is that Vince, when he sets up, now Vince is an arch back bencher. All right, go ahead and set up, Vince. So Vince brings himself forward to do it. Everyone's a little different. I'm too fat to do this stuff. But notice that when Vince sets up, and Vince is actually, for 200-something pound short hobbit looking guy, Vince gets really great leverages in almost everything he does. His squat looks pretty, his dead looks pretty, his bench looks pretty. Notice his eyes just naturally get under that bar. What that's going to enable him to do as he comes off, it's going to take the bar to a great position to go groove down, groove up. Okay? So that's the third thing I would tell you to do. A lot of times I'll see lifters and they want to come way down, Vince. And now what they want, I could never do that. They want to come here. Now when they come off, one of two things occurs. They're either going to move that bar so far down that they're going to loosen their entire lat setup, which is one of the next things we're going to talk about, or they're going to maintain the proper, but where is it going to put them? They're going to be up here. And now when I go down, the groove I'm going to have is going to put me here, and I'm doing the world's hardest, heaviest skull crusher to press the bar off. I'm literally JM pressing. I don't think of it as a JM press. I call it a bench press, but I see lifters all day long. Go ahead, and you're going to hate me for this, but take it off. Can you? Go ahead and bench. Now again, Vince is trying to correct himself because he's not good at doing it wrong. But even then, Vince missed his mark because he trying to correct himself, he dropped about 2 inches lower than Vince normally hits. One of the lucky, dumb mistakes we made on this shirt, the rib cage of the gorilla is right around the xiphoid process, which is right where most people should be hitting on their bench press. Got you guys, xiphoid process, anybody not know what I'm talking about? Right, we go down here, xiphoid's kind of right here at the bottom of the sternum, or yeah, bottom of the sternum. And that's typically where most of your lifters are gonna hit, all right? So there's third thing. So we've talked about grip, grip I should say, talked about placement, talked about setup positioning. So now we're gonna start talking about tightness. One of the biggest mistakes lifters make, I see it every single day. I see it in my gym with my lifters every single day. I beat them with a stick and I can't get them to stop it, is looseness in the setup. Looseness in the setup is gonna be one of the most impeding things, right? It's gonna be the biggest impediment that your lifters are gonna have to improving their bench press. Because I don't care how good you think you are. If you think you're gonna bench press by dropping it fast and absorbing it and firing it the other way, it will not happen, right? That strength curve Fred taught you earlier, to come up that curve, to be explosive, I have to have fibers already ready. And when I go like this, every fiber just went boom. And I've got nothing recruited. I've got nothing ready to explode. I've got nothing ready to turn the bench around. It's no different than at the bottom of a squat when you see a person, and I don't squat by the way well, but when you see a person squat and they drop in the bottom and they just collapse. When you bounce into your chest or let it suck in, that's what's happening. So the cue that we use a lot of times to teach people to do this is, you'll hear us say what? Tight what? Tight what? Tight lats. But it's really not just the lats I want tight. I want the scapular retractors, I want the traps, I want that entire, sit up, I want this entire apparatus tight. And one of the points I'll make to you is this. I literally want a lifter so tight in this that when they set up and that bar comes off, that this is pinned this direction. And I'll do it up here for sake of visual. By having this part of this pinned here, as that bar comes down, what happens to their back? It's getting what? It's getting tighter and tighter. If as a lifter, I let this start this way, if I even start here or out here, as I come down, what's happening? I'm spreading more and more. So when you get a lifter, and especially for us flat back lifters, when we tend to start and come out here, if we don't get this on the bench, then all that's gonna happen is we're gonna round out at the bottom. Now we're doing the world's hardest pec deck to press it out. Very simple way to fix that is just get tight. The easiest way I typically teach a lifter, and I'm gonna go through troubleshooting in kind of the second half, but easy way to do that is, go ahead and grab your position, Vince, sorry. Keep your feet up here and pull your traps on. I'll tell a lifter, feet up, put your hips, and I'm always not that nice when I say the term, but put your hips to the air, way up. And now put your feet to the bench, to the ground. See, we say tight lats a lot, but again, it's not the lats Vince is feeling it in right now, right? Where's he feeling that? If you were on this bench right now, where are you feeling that? You're feeling that in your neck, you're feeling that in your traps, right? Your lats are tight because you've tightened everything else up. My problem with the cue tight lats only is it tells people to tighten here without telling them to tighten here. If I use the cue tighten the traps, get up on your neck, pin it in, the lats are gonna work themselves out anyway because the lats are gonna go ahead and be tight. Under maximal weight for me, 585 plus raw, all right? If I hit my setup correctly and I'm tight, they can hold me at the bottom as long as they want. It truly doesn't affect me. My 606 6 months ago, I had an extremely long pause. The command for the pause was really long. And my coach had even said after the second one, and by the way, my coach is Josh Bryant, who's learned everything he had from Fred. So a lot of what I believe is that science right there. He said, jump the judge on the next one. And actually it was 589 that I got the really long pause. He said, jump the judge. He said, you'll get one red, you'll get two whites, we'll get the lift. That's right, that's just powerlifting, methodology. And when I went down on 606, I felt that I had tightened it so much, I didn't have to. I literally waited for the command because I was able to literally just turn it and fire. And I knew because I had all of this tucked in there, I was literally like a crossbow coming out. And that's what your lifter should be visualizing on a bench press. A bench press shouldn't be, I'm a piston going here and then firing here. It should be, I'm a crossbow. I'm coming down, tightening, 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 tightening. And then when I get that press command or under training reps as I'm pushing, it should be releasing. Should be no different than a squat, right? That I'm tightening, 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 and then I'm firing up. It shouldn't be that I'm reversing direction as much as I'm getting cranked into a position that I'm gonna uncoil out of. All right? We okay with that so far? Any questions so far?
What would happen if you turn that around into a reverse grip bench?
It would put, some people are great at it, and I'm not a fan of the reverse grip bench. The main reason I'm not is because if I fail on a reverse grip bench, my failure point is here. So I've told the bar to go to my teeth on a fail. I don't like that. They're not, I got a face for radio already, and the idea that I'm gonna make it any worse, all right, I don't know what my wife's doing with me now. So we're not gonna give her more reason to find somebody cuter. As far as from a true training standpoint, a lot of people like the reverse grip because it does isolate the long head of the tricep pretty well. It does get a lot of work to it to press it out that way. I tend to do that with tape presses and other presses to work that instead of being under maximal weight, potentially failing, and the only place I can fail is my throat or my chin. That's just, again, my opinion. All right, so that takes us through the back. So let's talk about the feet for a second, and let's talk about foot placement, all right? And not foot placement, I want to talk about leg drive, actually. Leg drive is the single most misused or unused part of the bench press arsenal, all right? And let's talk about what leg drive is first. Vince, sit up for me. I'm gonna have Vince demonstrate. Vince, I want you to push your butt. I want you to push your whole body that direction, please. Okay? Is he doing that with his back? Is he doing it with any part of his body other than his legs, right? Go ahead and grab your position. The following is the Reader's Digest version of why we do leg drive in the first place. When we use leg drive, and I just want you to pulse your legs for me, Vince. Pulse hard. Pulse hard again. All right, go ahead and set your position. The first one was beautiful, and then you kind of lost your arch. Just one more time. Go ahead and pulse. All right, if you watch that, a couple things happened. His body shot what direction? Okay? His thoracic area here, right? This area here went in what direction? It went up. Because if he's pinned in, release yourself, release yourself. If he's pinned in the way that he should be on those traps, right? On those scapular retractors and dug into a bench, when he leg drives and he pulses, it's going to send his body in that direction, but we've put the brakes on because our top point of contact is jammed into the bench. And because the top point of contact is jammed into the bench, it's going to send this area up, and it's going to send all the power up, which, by the way, last time I checked, where are we trying to send the bench press bar, right? And it's going to drive it in that direction. The other thing it's going to do for us is, because we have that big, tight air chest, it's going to make us explode through a little bit easier and a little bit better. Leg drive, if you don't leg drive, and every time I see a power lifter, now this is specific to power lifters, not just gym hypertrophy lifters, when you put your feet up because you want to be cool, right, and you're benching with your feet off the ground, you are not practicing specificity. Leg drive is one of the most important things we do in a bench press. So if I take my feet off the ground, I'm not practicing that. Now, as an accessory, every now and then, if I'm way off season, right, and I'm just bored and I want to try something different, sure. But if you're doing it as a main part of your bench press routine, and I've actually seen powerlifters who will send me their routine and say, hey, this is, you know, I do this to work on my strength. There's actually better exercises to take leg drive out that I prefer, and we'll get to it, but like floor press for a power lifter. It's a better activity. So where your feet go. Now, the other important part of leg drive is from a setup standpoint. Go ahead and set up, Vince. And by the way, Vince and I didn't talk before this, so I'm not telling him where I'm going. Where is Vince's knees compared to his hips? I'm sorry? They're lower. Important part of watching your lifter set up. If their knee is below their hip, when they pulse, Vince, it's going to send everything that way, but what does it not send up? The butt. Go ahead and, can you even set it up where your knees are even to your butt? All right, we'll try. If I put my knees even with my hips, I'm now going to end up actually, when I pulse, this is going to come off. Anybody here have a problem with butt pop? I'm not judging it as I say it. How many arch benchers do I have in the room, by the way? Okay. Butt pop an issue at all? Okay. Butt pop? Okay. Right? Right? Typically, the first fix in that is making sure that my hip to where I'm putting my feet, because we always tend to focus on the feet. We always tend to focus on the feet themselves, and I'll move, right? And you get people, I mean, Garrett Griffin, and he's a hell of a lifter, he's like this. And I just competed with him. I'm like, good Lord. And it is a way to fix it. We can use the foot angle to fix butt pop. But the first thing we should be looking at is the hip to knee in a good or positive position. If my knee and my hip is to the point that I'm creating my arch, but in creating my arch, that I'm actually getting that knee above that hip, I'm doing bad. Then I'm not necessarily using the arch to my advantage.
Hey, thank you, Richard. That was amazing bench press advice. I know we'll all benefit from that. Now, if you like that, you're gonna love this. The 7 fastest ways to increase your bench press. It's a free report just for you. Click this box right here, enter your email, and we'll send you this free report. Now, if you're on a mobile device, you can't click that box. So check the description area below. Look for that top link, criticalbench.com/YouTube. That's the link you want to click. Enter your email, we'll send you that free report. Now be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave some comments or questions for us so we can reach out to you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.